So is it possible that Wizards of the Coast, that Hasbro is looking to reboot Dungeons and Dragons already, that they're looking to put out a 6th edition, like what, less than 2 years after they released the 2024 Player's Handbook, that they did the 5.5? Yeah. Again, I want to disclaim this as a rumor, but if it's true, it shows that the 2024 version of Dungeons and Dragons has been a massive failure, and they might actually be trying to course correct to save what's left of Dungeons and Dragons fandom. Because remember, Hasbro is not in the greatest of places with D&D with fans. A lot of people have jumped ship to D&D. They still play. Lots of people are still playing, but they jumped ship to other systems. Some people noped out during the OGL debacle. You can Google that. It was a whole thing. And a lot of people jump ship to other systems because D&D no longer feels like D&D. A lot of people joke it should be D-E-I-N-D, but I digress. But, they were talking that this last version of D&D, the 2024, was this massive success. And, the Player's Handbook was the fastest selling D&D product ever. And then you really didn't hear much about the sales after that. And not long after, we started seeing people get gone. And that was very interesting. And there really wasn't any way to tell specifically how D&D was doing, because Hasbro, WotC just kind of rolls D&D into the same category as Magic the Gathering, right? So they're not separating out Dungeons and Dragons from Wizards. And so they're like, oh yeah, record numbers, of Magic cards being sold, or D&D or whatever. Wizards is doing really well. Now that's a whole nother discussion, because Wizards is getting sued by shareholders for allegedly lying about the numbers of cards that they were selling, lying about the rarity of some of these cards, and this would actually, I would say, jive with what we have seen. That we've seen pictures of Magic cards in landfills, and everybody's like, that's not right. That's just Target dumping off. No, bullshit. It's probably WotC overproducing cards, because it's relatively easy to make cards compared to like action figures or whatever. But yeah, we had a bunch of Magic cards in the landfill next to the ET cartridges, right? It was crazy. But yeah, there was a whole lot of talk about this being a huge deal right out of the gate. And then people started to ask questions, and God forbid you ask questions about the sales numbers. Now, I don't know if it was like a massive failure, but I do not believe 2024 D&D sold nearly what Hasbro was expecting it to sell. And again, looking at all these people leaving, the people that were responsible for putting this together, leaving right after it's released, that's weird. Either they knew that the ship was sinking, or the building was on fire, they're trying to get out. But we literally had like the entire staff get gone in the span of a couple of months. Very weird stuff, right? And now there's a rumor that, and not my rumor, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's actually coming from, I believe, RPG Pundit via Phantom Pulse. But the rumor is that they're already looking to reset D&D, but not just reset D&D, but bring back some of the old guard from TSR, the name recognition, Margaret Wise and Ed Greenwood, and possibly Luke Gygax, and all of these creators that have a lot of street cred with OG players. Why? Well, if you've chased off the middle-aged men that are your primary audience, I mean, let's be real here, they're your primary demographic. You've chased them all off. How do you get them back? Well, you bring back people with names that they recognize from a much better era of this franchise. And, so it might be that the shipping and the this super DEI woke whatever shit that's going on. What is going on here? The beholder with the rainbow heart and the whatever. This era might be ending. And I blame Critical Role for this. Again, I don't blame Matt Mercer. I've met Matt Mercer. He's a very nice guy. I don't have anything against him. But they definitely picked up the Tumblr audience, and the Tumblr audience doesn't buy shit. Let's be real. They talk about it. They tweet about it. They try to keep people out of the hobby, but they're actually buying anything. And this is every single hobby that they commandeer. These people, I swear to God, I was just talking in a Transformers video about this IDW Transformer stan who probably didn't even buy the comics. They probably torrented the comics, but getting in my face because I stated a fact that Marvel Comics flat out said that there was no gender in Transformers. Transformers did not have a gender. They were robots. They did not have a gender. They were sexless robots that turned into cars. And I just happened to make that observation when the whole conversation came up with the non-binary Transformer from Earthspark. And this person got so ass mad and was like, "You're not even a fan. You're just one of those alt-right chuds trying to latch onto it." And I showed a picture of just the Transformers sitting around my desk. I'm like, bitch, I got like hundreds of Transformers just in my office. Show me your collection. And of course they couldn't do it. But that's the same with the tabletop too. Like you push these people and 9 times out of 10, they don't have shit. They're not buying shit. And Hasbro knows that now. I think they know that now. And the reason that D&D blew up, frankly, it was two things. It was pandemic. People were stuck in their houses, so they're like, "Oh, let's play a game. Let's play D&D. We actually have time for a campaign now since we're not going to go back to work for 6 months." And Stranger Things, when it was popular, and Stranger Things just freaking fell off a cliff because the ending was so bad. So yeah, they're like, "Oh shit, we need money. Let's go back to the old men." The old men have money. So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Hey, if you like D&D, you might like Crimson Ren. You can still pledge to this. This is a re-offer of a book that's been out of print for about 4 years now. Check it out on Kickstarter, Crimson Ren, the Adventure Edition. And we actually do have D20 cards that we're going to be shipping with this book. If you choose that tier that has character stats, you can use it in D20 or, you can adapt it to whatever system you're playing. It doesn't have to be D&D. Whatever you're playing. So there we go. All right, this is coming from Fandom Pulse, and again, I think they got it from RPG Pundit. The RPG Pundit has broken news of a potential bombshell development in the Dungeons & Dragons world. Wizards of the Coast is allegedly preparing to launch a 6th edition of D&D, abandoning the disastrous 2024 edition that has driven fans away in droves. Even more intriguing, the rumor suggests that Ed Greenwood and Tracy Hickman are being brought back to help salvage a franchise. And it's so weird because both of them were treated very, very poorly. Okay, Tracy Hickman. I thought it was Margaret Wise. Is Margaret? Nah, she probably would be involved too. I don't know. But Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman, the creators of Dragonlance, and they were treated very, very poorly by Wizards. There was a lawsuit. Ed Greenwood has been treated very poorly, I think, by Wizards because he created the Forgotten Realms, which is inarguably the most popular campaign setting in D&D history, and it's what most of the franchise, Baldur's Gate and the D&D movie, they all take place in the Forgotten Realms. And I don't think he gets shit for royalties. I don't think they give him any kind of money for that, which is a damn shame because Hasbro is a multi-billion-dollar company. But then again, they treat Larry Hama very badly too. Larry Hama created all the backstory for G.I. Joe and basically made these toys into characters, and he still has to work at 75, 76 years old with poor health and failing eyesight just to pay the bills because he doesn't get any royalties. Shame on you, Hasbro. But I'm just saying. But yeah, they said the rumor suggests that Ed Greenwood, Tracy Hickman, they could be brought back. Okay, this is coming from RPG Pundit, so all the credit to him. I had said that what was going to be one of the possibilities of how Wizards of the Coast was going to handle D&D in the future. This is one of the possibilities. Okay, it's someone that I consider to be trustworthy in this and that I believe would not make something like this up. The timing of the rumored reboot is particularly telling, given the spectacular failure of the 2024 edition. The more you look into it, the more you see it's likely that it failed. The 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide infamously incorporated BDSM fetish community practices in the game for safe spaces, having players make an X with their arms that they feel triggered by a situation. It was so bad that the Babylon Bee mocked it. Okay? It required a DM to stop the game. The 2024 Player's Handbook is filled with imagery of BIPOC and female characters at a margin of more than 5-1 for white male characters. The direct opposite of the demographics who play the game. Yeah, you can push for. Yeah, I love the body positive works and the damn. This is ridiculous. They're not black people, guys. They're Mexicans. There we go. They're people too. Orcs are people too. No, actually, yeah, it's ridiculous because here's the thing. Like, you can want to open up spaces to other people, and there's never been a problem with that. Actually, D&D has always been a very welcoming space, but there's this narrative going around that D&D has been, exclusively the domain of white male nerds, and it's like, no, it never really was. It's just that we're the people that gravitated to those spaces. We didn't try to keep anybody out. It's just that everybody else had a life. Everybody else had a life. They had jobs. They had friends. And we wound up taking over the nerd spaces, whether it's comics or whatever. And I think there's the kernel of truth to that. I think basically a lot of outcast white guys found these spaces, and a lot of the people that play D&D and stuff were like the techie nerd guys, Revenge of the Nerds. And I'm not saying there weren't female nerds. I'm not saying there weren't black nerds. I'm not saying there weren't gay nerds. There most certainly were. I'm just saying proportionately, if you're talking demographics, these spaces, the reason they were quote unquote so white is because we had a lot of white losers, myself included, who wound up kind of, finding these spaces. It's as simple as that. Nobody was trying to keep anybody out, nobody was trying to keep anybody out of the hobby or whatever, to the best of my knowledge. And this whole notion that like the Nazis have taken over the tabletop. I'm like, bitch, if they're actual Nazis, don't you think they have something better to do with their time than hang out with a bunch of white nerds playing fantasy games? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't they have people to oppress and violence and stuff to commit? Like, that's what I understand. Like, the Nazis are trying to take over the cartoons. I'm like, bitch, Nazis don't watch cartoons, okay? They're doing Nazi stuff. Seriously. It's like, what? And honestly, to get around, like with Warhammer, that one guy, that Warhammer tournament that wore the swastika jacket or whatever, he's doing it just to get rise at people. Like, he's not an actual Nazi. If he was, he wouldn't be here. I'm just saying. But yeah, it got so bad that people associated with the game themselves were making disparaging comments about white dudes, right? Like, that is your bread and butter. That is like 90% of your audience right there. D&D came under further scrutiny after it was revealed that senior designer Jason Tondro penned a foreword to the history book on D&D, calling Gygax misogynistic and accusing him of cultural appropriation. Yeah, he was the one who was like, yeah, the game's come so far, because I forget exactly what he said, but he's like, this is a bunch of white dudes from the flyover states. So we need to move beyond. And they even took the warrior from the cover of the basic set, one of the most iconic images in D&D history, and turned him into a very thick brown woman, right? To celebrate the 50th anniversary. They were absolutely positively trying to make a statement. So I don't know what's going on here. The books didn't sell, or Hasbro laid down the law and said, look, we need sales. So you guys have spent the last, 10 years alienating the core demographic of D&D, and it could be so much more if you guys just shut your damn mouths. Or yes, and that's why people got gone. I don't know. Yeah, even Elon Musk stepped into it and was threatening to buy Hasbro. If he bought Hasbro, he'd be buying it for Optimus Prime, so he could use Optimus on his robots. The 2024 Monster Manual made a lot of woke changes, including removing orcs, but adding gender ideology elements to creatures like hags, succubuses, and sphinxes. Yes, because they're people too. It goes on, right? So here's the rumor. According to RPG Pundit's source, right? So this is all, and it comes true. That's awesome. Wizards of the Coast has approached Ed Greenwood and Tracy Hickman to work on the 6th edition. Greenwood, creator of the Forgotten Realms setting, brings unparalleled world-building expertise. His creation of Faerun and its intricate pantheon, geography, and history has shaped how millions of players experience D&D. Yes, and he should be getting paid a lot more. He should be getting a lot more money. Tracy Hickman, along with Margaret Wise, created Dragonlance, and they were in a lawsuit. It was so bad that they got into a lawsuit with Hasbro. It was a very ugly thing, and then apparently it all got worked out. RPG Pundit noted the curious nature of this recruitment. Ed Greenwood and Tracy Hickman were both asked to come and work on the 6th edition product. However, he expressed skepticism about what role they would actually play. I'm not sure what he would actually have to really contribute on that respect, So unless he's only asked to do like a little blurb, like the settings section of the DMG, because they're going to use the realms, that might make sense. RPG Pundit suspects the real motivation is marketing. There's also a real possibility, but I'm getting to here is there's a very real possibility that all three of these guys, if you include Luke Gygax, are there exclusively to sell their name, right? The only thing that Wizards wants from them is their names, right? That is actually true. That is, I'm more inclined to think that they're not going to let them have control, but they'll let them say something so they can throw their names in the credits or on the cover or something. Be like, look, the OGs sign off on it. This version's good, guys. Because remember, a lot of the OG creators were throwing major shade at D&D themselves, including Robert J. Kuntz. We had him on the show. He does not think very well of Wizards. A lot of these guys don't think kindly of Wizards because Wizards has not treated them well. They threw them away like a used tissue. They don't respect the Gygax legacy, but they'll drag a Gygax out, as part of a dog and pony show. They'll bring him out and be like, look, Luke likes her. And Luke, I'm sure he's a good guy. I've never met him, but it was a damn shame what happened with Ernie, though. That I will never stop being pissed about because it was horrible how that whole situation went down. But I digress. But they said this looks like a desperate attempt at legitimacy. The rumored involvement of these legendary creators represents a transparent attempt by Hasbro to recapture the trust of longtime D&D fans who have abandoned the game under current leadership. By associating the new edition with names that evoke D&D's golden age, Wizards hopes to signal a return to the game's roots after years of ideological corruption. RPG Pundit was blunt. He said they want to be able to put the credit section of the book and they want to be able to put it on the credit section of the book or maybe on the cover. They want to put Ed Greenwood, Tracy Hickman, Luke Gygax, or maybe just Gygax or something to show that the guy did it, right? That's what they want. They want to do that because then they know nerds are going to see those names. Yeah, and that's why they drag out the OGs on comics or animation or whatever, and they get them to, forward by, and they do it because people are going to be like, oh, then that means, Ed Greenwood, Margaret Wise, Tracy Hickman, sign off on this, and I remember those names from when D&D was good, so it must be good too. I mean, I guess you get that money any way you can now because God knows they're not getting paid the royalties they should be getting. But the cynical calculation assumes fans will overlook the current design team's incompetence if they see familiar names. Well, who's left? Right? Who the hell is even left? Because everybody's leaving over there. They're all leaving. Like half of these guys went over to work on Critical Role's game. So like who the hell's even left over there, right? So they just going to do everything with AI. Is it going to be Chris Cox just using AI? Because he's talked about how he wants to use AI for D&D to do rules and modules and stuff. So is he just going to like punch in some prompts and be like, yes, let's make a whole bunch of new Forgotten Realms modules. We'll have them out by tomorrow. We'll throw them up on the internet. He said, Ed Greenwood has no real experience as a game designer, as a rules designer, things like that, right? So would he serve a purpose in that regard? Probably not, but he could talk about the Forgotten Realms. Hickman, who has more game design experience, is not known like Gygax or Monty Cook or the RPG Pundit, right? A guy who like knows people, knows how to make a game, right? So they have hired another person that looks like another activist. That's what I've heard. I didn't even bother doing the story on that because I'm like, oh my God, Wizards hires another activist to run one of their IP into the ground. You don't say. He said, you've heard they've hired another chick. I wish I remembered to have checked her name before starting the video. This woman who's basically connected to young adult science fiction stuff. Like basically the entire industry of publishing has been taken over by feminists, millennial women who worked on young adult novels. Yeah, pretty much. And there's rumor that they're going to take D&D, and they already have, take D&D down the romantasy path, and they're releasing a romantasy, was it the Fae or something? I forget what it is, but it's like, I'll believe it when I see it, but I could totally see them doing that, throwing these guys a couple of bucks just to use their name to be like, look, it's okay. It's safe to come back to D&D, guys. It's okay, because we know you nerds are the ones who buy these ridiculously expensive hardcover books. We know it's you guys. We have to admit now it's you guys. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. There it is. It's a rumor. We'll see what happens. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.